Let's say you want to log in to your online bank and perform a few operations. First of all, you need to log in. You enter your username and password. Those credentials get sent over to the server for verification. Then, the backend application computes the hash of your password and compares it to the hash stored from when you registered your account. If it matches, you'll be able to log in and view your account. Now, let's say you want to pay your credit card bill. Well, the problem now is that HTTP is a stateless protocol. So your web browser, every time you perform an action, needs to prove that it's you and that you have access to your account. You could potentially send your username and password in the header with every single action you take, but each time the server receives a request, it would need to compute the hash again and compare it to the one in the database, which might be a CPU-intensive operation, and it's often slow on purpose for security reasons. Now, to solve this problem and improve performance and user experience, when a user first logs in to the online bank, you verify the credentials only once. Then you create another database table to store session information. You generate an ID for each session, set an expiration time, maybe 10 minutes, include permissions like access to multiple accounts, the user agent to know what kind of app or browser the client is using, and some other metadata. So you only compute the password hash once, and you send the session ID back to the client. Every time you need to do something on the website, your browser saves it in a cookie and sends that session ID in the header, which keeps you logged in. But the problem now is that every single time you do anything on the website and send the session ID, the server still needs to verify and compare it to the one stored in the database. Many applications, to improve performance and reduce latency for the end user, store the session ID in a memory store like Redis or Memcached. Querying Redis to verify a session ID is much faster than querying a relational database like Postgres. And even if Redis or Memcached crashes for some reason and you lose all the session IDs, it's not the end of the world. Your clients would just get logged out and need to log in again. Also, if you have microservices and a client request needs to go through multiple ones, each service would need to reach out to the central session store to verify the ID, which adds to the overall latency. If you don't have a lot of clients, you might store session IDs in the server's memory. But the problem is that when you scale your application horizontally and a request from your client goes to another replica that doesn't have that session ID, the client would be asked to log in again, which isn't the best user experience. The key point is that every single time, the server has to validate either the credentials or the session ID against a remote storage system, such as a database or a cache like Redis. Now, to solve this problem and boost performance, JSON Web Tokens, or JWTs, were created. The client still needs to send the token to the server with every request, but now it's a compact, signed package of identity and permissions that your application can verify locally without needing to check a central session store each time. You can have as many replicas as you want, and each one can verify the client pretty quickly. Each token carries its own proof, removing the need for shared session storage. But it also introduces new challenges around revocation, expiration, and security, which we'll cover next. JWT token consists of three parts: the header, the payload, and the signature. These are separated by dots, and each part is base64 encoded. Let's start with the header. It mainly includes the algorithm used to sign the token, plus the type, which is usually just JWT. To create this header part, you take a JSON object, remove all the spaces, and apply base64 encoding to the whole thing. That's how you get the first section of the token. Remember, it's not encrypted, it's just encoded. Anyone can decode it, so never include any secret information, like passwords, in the token. Next up is the payload. For something like our bank application, it might look like this. You'd have a user ID in the subject field, along with a role assigned to the user. It could be customer, for example. A bank manager logging into the app might have an admin role, giving them access to all bank accounts. We can also assign a specific scope. Say you logged in via a third-party app. Your scope might be limited to just viewing your balance, without permission to perform any bank operations. The payload would also include a timestamp for when the token was created, and most importantly, an expiration time. For a bank, that might be 10 minutes or less. After that, the token becomes invalid, and you'd need to get a new one, which happens automatically. Shorter expiration times are all about security. If the token gets stolen in a man-in-the-middle attack, the damage is limited by how long the hacker can use it. Just like the header, we apply base64 encoding to this JSON payload, And again, don't include any sensitive data here. Now the most important part, the signature. When the server creates a JWT token, it takes the encoded header, the encoded payload, a secret key, and the algorithm from the header to generate the signature. That secret key is private. Only the server has access to it. So only the server can create a valid signature and verify the user. You might be wondering, since the header and payload are basically plain text that anyone can see, could I request a token from the server, and while it's valid for those 10 minutes, change the user ID to access someone else's bank account? Well, no. As a client, when you send the token with each request, like viewing your balance, the server recomputes the signature and compares it to the one you provided. Even the tiniest change in a single character will produce a completely different signature. So unless you have the secret key, you can't impersonate anyone else. There's also the option to use asymmetric algorithms like RSA for the signature. The big benefit here is that only one server with the private key can create the signature for the JWT token. But then, anyone with the public key can verify it. For example, if you have multiple microservices that need to verify tokens during customer requests, a symmetric algorithm means every microservice has to store that secret key, which increases the risk of it being stolen. With public key cryptography, all the other microservices just need the public key to verify the signature. Public keys are meant to be shared, so there's no risk in distributing them, even to anyone on the internet. Let's take a look at some advantages. First of all, they are stateless, so you don't need a remote store like a database or Redis to verify session IDs. Any instance can verify the token locally, which is a great feature when you scale your infrastructure horizontally. Next, verification is very fast. Since you don't need to make any network calls, you simply recompute the signature and verify it against the one provided by the client. Also, these tokens are not tied to a single domain, so they fit naturally into single sign-on and multi-service systems that share the same identity provider. They are also compact and portable, relatively small, URL-safe, and JSON-based, so they travel easily in headers or URLs across browsers, devices, and third-party clients. Every single token is signed, which means the signature can be verified, allowing any service that trusts the issuer to validate it without a network call. And finally, they follow an open standard and have a wide array of open-source libraries available for encoding and decoding tokens. It is also important to understand some trade-offs you have to make when using JWT tokens. First of all, there is no built-in session control. Once you issue a token, it's valid until it expires. You can't revoke it server-side without adding a blacklist or shortening its lifetime. Also, since tokens are stateless, they can't auto-extend like traditional sessions. To keep users logged in, you need a refresh token system. Tokens are often hundreds of bytes, not a short ID. Sending them with every request increases bandwidth use and can hit header size limits if claims are verbose. The payload is readable, and anyone with the token can decode its contents. While the signature prevents tampering, it doesn't hide data. It's important never to include secrets or personal information without an extra encryption layer. If an attacker steals a valid token, they can use it to impersonate the user until it expires. Tokens can be outdated. If a user's permissions change, old tokens still reflect the previous state until they expire or are reissued. There are also some challenges in implementation. Common mistakes include skipping signature checks, using weak algorithms, or failing to validate claims like expiration. These small misconfigurations can open large security holes. In conclusion, JWT really shines in distributed applications where services can verify the same token locally using a shared key, as well as in high-throughput APIs that handle thousands of requests per second. Verifying a JWT signature is faster and cheaper than querying a database for every session lookup. On the other hand, you should not use JWT when you need instant logout or revocation, if user permissions change frequently, if you handle sensitive data in the token, or, to be honest, if you don't need distributed scale. In those cases, perhaps simple session IDs would work better for you.